What's up, football fans? Today I'm going to be talking about the biggest surprises of the NFL season so far. The biggest surprise, in my opinion, is Sam Darnold leading the MVP chase. He has 1,100 passing yards, 11 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. He's already had his bye week, so that's why his numbers are a bit smaller than the other ones. He is the Vikings undefeated. Their defense is just playing so well, and the offense is too. The whole team just together is just playing so good. And this is just shocking because most of the people thought that they'd be a bottom two team in the NFC North. And right now they're the top team record wise at least. This really presents an interesting situation for the Vikings because next season, obviously, Darnold signed a 1 year, $10 million deal. So it's like, what are they going to do? Are they going to re sign him? Or are they just going to roll with JJ McCarthy? Since they just drafted him in the first round, it doesn't really make sense to re sign a quarterback. But on the level Darnold's played, he's definitely deserved an extension with the Vikings. So we'll have to see what they do there. My next biggest surprise is that Jayden Daniels has came into the league so pro ready. I mean, he's top 3 in quarterback rating, top 10 in passing yards. He's got just 2 interceptions on the season. Really, one of the things I was worried about was his processing and accuracy, but he's really been really good at that. And his other thing I was worried about was he would take too many hits. If you really watch him play on those scrambles, he's just running out of bounds, sliding. He's not getting hit. In the first game I saw of him, I thought he got hit way too much, and it looks like he's definitely learned from that. The Commanders have 4 wins somehow. They just lost to the Ravens, but they're one of the best teams in the NFL as well. And this defense just looks terrible on paper. They haven't played good at all. But Jayden Daniels has led the Commanders, who are not a very talented offense, to being the best in football. The offensive line is horrible. The run game isn't that great. And outside of McLaurin, they don't really have any receiving options. And he's just been able to rise above the situation and just play at an MVP level for them. He also has over 300 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns on the season. In my opinion, he might be the best scrambling quarterback in the NFL. Now, this is not including designed runs, because obviously, in my opinion, that would be Lamar Jackson. But just like on pass plays where they're able to roll out and make a play with their legs, I think he does just such a good job of that. And most of his running plays have been off scrambles rather than designed runs. The next biggest surprise is that Chris Godwin is wide receiver 1 in fantasy football. This is absolutely insane. It's really just showing how well he's played this season. He has 511 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. Compare that with Mike Evans, who has 310 yards and also 5 touchdowns. It's crazy. Mike Evans only has 25 catches to Chris Godwin's 43. He's really just stepped up and became the new wide receiver 1 in Tampa and has definitely earned himself an extension. I think a big reason for this sudden surge of production is that he was able to move back to the slot where he'd been playing outside for the past few years. I think he's definitely a lot better just in the slot. My next one's going to be Jayden Reed, just being by far and away the Packers' best receiver. You'll go into the season where a lot of Packers fans, including myself, were kind of expecting Dontavian Wicks to be that. Most of the casual NFL fans would have said Christian Watson, and a lot of other people were saying Romeo Doubs just because he's the most consistent. Jayden Reed was one of those that very few people would mention when they're talking about the Packers' best receiver. However, he's top 10 in receiving yards and touchdowns. It's just been amazing this season. He's also leading all receivers in rushing yards and has been one of the best receivers in the NFL this season. Combine that with the fact that he's able to have contested catches, a lot better than any of the Packers' other receivers, despite Dobbs being 6'2", Christian Watson 6'5". I don't know how he does it, but Reed's just the best all-around receiver on this team and one of the best receivers in the NFL. My next biggest surprise is just going to be from the same team, the Packers. It's Xavier McKinney. It's so hard to believe that a safety is number 1 in Defensive Player of the Year right now. He's got 5 interceptions in 6 games. It is a bit disappointing that he wasn't able to get one against the Cardinals. Kyler Murray's just a bit too safe with the ball, so he didn't really put the ball in harm's way very much. Where Xavier McKinney has thrived is just baiting people in deep coverage. They throw it. It's a huge mistake. And Kyler probably watched that on film and just ruined the streak. However, just being 5 interceptions in just 6 games is insane. So we'll have to see if that continues and if he can finish out Defensive Player of the Year. But the player who right now has shocked me the most on defense is going to be Dexter Lawrence. He is second in the league in sacks. First in the league is Hutchinson with 7.5. Dexter Lawrence has 7. That is no one talking about that. This is an interior player who's like over 300 pounds. Look at him. He does not look like a pass rusher, but he's able to disrupt the quarterback, pressure them, and he's really turning that into sacks this year. And this is by far his most production he's had in any season of his career. My next surprise is the decline of the tight end position. You look at the top guys from last season. If you asked most people, they'd say Travis Kelce, who's looked really not good this year, despite there having no target competition for the Chiefs. You also got Sam Laporta, which outside of last game where he had a big touchdown, had no touchdowns, had very low in yards, just wasn't that good of a tight end this season. The other guy you'd probably say is George Kittle or Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews has been terrible. Now I know George Kittle has been very good when he's been healthy, but you got to look at the tight end position overall, which has just been terrible this season and just taken a huge step back. You got guys like Tucker Kraft who are already looking like they're top 10 tight ends after not really being anything last season. It's just crazy how fast the fall off of the tight end position has happened. My next biggest surprise is that the Bengals have just been terrible. Now, this is despite Joe Burrow playing at an MVP level right now, and Jamar Chase looking like maybe the best receiver in football. Chase Brown has looked like a good running back, and the line has at least been good enough, at least from the interior. Obviously, their tackles have not been that good, but the line has been good enough for this team to win games. It's just that defense is so bad. The loss of DJ Reader really just hurt them, and they haven't been able to stop the run at all, and their secondary took a huge step back. This team is 2-4 after just beating the Giants, and I don't see this team going anywhere in the playoffs or even making it just because of how bad that defense has been. And I think Zach Taylor is definitely going to get fired, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's before the season's over. My next biggest surprise is the Cowboys defense being bottom 5. Now, last season, they were forcing takeaways. DaRon Bland was getting touchdowns. The whole defense was getting touchdowns. Micah Parsons was wrecking people in the sack department. Same with DeMarcus Lawrence. He was very good. They just couldn't stop the run. Now, this season, they can't stop the pass or the run. They're allowing so many points, and this offense just has to do too much, which it just can't. Dak Prescott isn't a good enough quarterback to carry this bad of a defense, and I don't think the Cowboys can make the playoffs in just such a loaded NFC. My next biggest surprise is the 49ers are absolutely nothing without CMC. Now, this is even though Jordan Mason is second in the league in rushing yards, he hasn't been able to do the dynamic plays in the receiving game, and it's really cut down on the playbook. They're not running the same plays as they would with Christian McCaffrey, obviously. And the play calling has just not been that good this season, situationally or not even normally, because they're used to having Christian McCaffrey. You look at it, and Purdy's not playing that great. Their only real players played, I'd say, better than we expected would be George Kittle. And they just need Christian McCaffrey back, even though Mason's clearly shown that he's been a good running back. They need an elite running back in that offense. And my final surprise is that Mike McDaniel is a fraud. Now, I know he hasn't had his starting quarterback, but this is kind of what I'm talking about. He had Tua, who most people were saying was a system quarterback, product of Mike McDaniel's system. However, they just haven't looked very good at all this season without Tua. You'd expect Tyler Huntley, who's shown that he's a very capable backup in the NFL. You'd expect them to still be able to win a game. Well, they did, but like it was the Patriots. But like have production. I believe Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are still combined for 1 touchdown. You'd expect that to go up, even if Tua's not in the lineup. But right now it's looking like their play calls haven't been that good. And that's with Mike McDaniel being like one of the best offensive minds in football, according to most people. So that just can't happen. I think that Mike McDaniel is a fraud based on what we've seen from that offense. Thank you guys all for watching. Make sure you guys subscribe and like the video so you guys can check out my other videos as they come out, because I'm just going to be making about 2 to 3 videos per week, and I'd really like your guys' support.